Unannounced for Revive Radio. It's unannounced for Revive Radio.
Yep, you already know what time it is, man. It's Meet Your Girl P.O.C. Revive is alive, Revive is alive, ReviveIsAlive.com, and we want you all to be a part of this conversation, man. Give us a call, 215-853-6803. Let's go.
You're listening to community radio at its best. Uptown Radio, WJYN 98.5 FM, serving Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The opinions of this program are not the opinions of the station management or the Uptown Entertainment and Development Corporation.
Yep, you know what time it is, man. It's me, your girl P.O.C., host of Revive Radio. I need you all out there to do one thing for me right now. Spread the word, spread the message that Revive is alive. Once again, Revive is alive. And I need you guys to go check out our website at ReviveIsAlive.com. Once again, ReviveIsAlive.com, and follow us Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Revive_POC.
You are listening to Revive Radio. The views and opinions expressed on Revive Radio does not necessarily reflect ownership, management, and advertisers of Revive Radio.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You already know what time it is. ReviveIsAlive.com. Once again, ReviveIsAlive.com. Tune in. Revive. Welcome to Revive. It's about that time. Welcome to Revive. It's about that time. All I need is one mic. You know what time it is. Open up your ears. You know what time it is. Open up your mind. It's about that time. It's your girl P.O.C. Hey! It's your girl P.O.C. Hey! Proof of consciousness. Proof of consciousness. P.O.C. You know what time it is. Open up your ears. You know what time it is. Open up your mind. All I need is it's about that time. Welcome to Revive. Welcome to Revive. Welcome to Revive. Yep. You already know what time it is, man. It's your girl P.O.C., host of Revive Radio, man. We are live right now on Revive is Alive, Revive is Alive, ReviveIsAlive.com by way of 98.5 WJYN, man. You already know each and every Friday. Tri-State, turn your radios up, switch your dials over. Go ahead and tell a friend to tell a friend. Spread the word, spread the message, man. Your girl P.O.C. is reviving your airways each and every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m., 98.5 FM. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as the newsletter every time we go live on Revive. You know we got a jam-packed show, and we want you all to be a part of everything we got going on. And all you can, by simply subscribing to the YouTube channel as well as the newsletter, you can definitely do that, man. And let's go. We got a special guest on the airways right now, as well as Instagram Live. I need you all to go ahead and tune into it. I'm going to make sure I share this Instagram Live with everybody who's listening right now. I need you all to go ahead and share this Instagram Live. You have two ways of how you can check out this amazing interview that we have going on with newly elected City Councilwoman Jamie Gauthier. I'm really excited to be speaking with her. It's a lot going on in the city, and we all want to know how we can, too, receive some opportunities and some resources. Peace. Good afternoon. How you feeling? You're live on Revive.
Hi, I'm well.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Welcome. First and foremost, I want to say welcome to Revive. Welcome to 98.5. We appreciate you lending, your voice to this platform to make sure independent media, knows what's going on as well. So I want you to go ahead and properly introduce yourself to let the listeners know exactly who they're listening to.
My name is Councilmember Jamie Gauthier. I represent the 3rd District, which is much of West Philly and much of Southwest Philly. And as you mentioned, I'm a newly elected council member.
Yes. And before we get into all of that, you are a person first and foremost. So I want to just ask you, how are you as a person? I know you've been working crazy, but just how are you as a person?
I am well. well. I'm well and I'm safe. My family is safe and healthy, and so I think that's the most important thing at this time. And so I'm grateful for that, and I feel blessed. And beyond that, I've just been trying to be the best council person that I can be, and be as big of a help as I can for people during this hard time.
No doubt. And this weekend is Mother's Day, so I want to, be the first one to wish you a happy Mother's Day or early Mother's Day at that.
Thank you.
So how have you been adjusting as a mom? How have you been adjusting? I apologize. How have you been adjusting as a mom when it comes down to this, virtual learning and them being home 24/7? Just as a person, how's that been for you?
It's been going well. I feel I'm lucky to have kids that are pretty self-sufficient. I've been a working mom for as long as I've been a mom, and it was much harder with little kids. My oldest is about to be 17.
Okay.
My youngest is 12 going on 13. So they know they got to jump on the computer, do their instruction time, get their work done, and they're able to do that in a really good way without me having to kind of be constantly on them. But it's been cool being home with them. We're getting to spend a lot more time together.
Awesome. And I wanted to ask you that because, some people, when they think about politicians, they don't think of them as real people, so that's why I wanted to ask you that question, just because everyone's in the house. Everyone's going through this virtual, world right now and trying to adapt to it. So if you can do it, we all can do it. So that's one of the reasons why I asked you that. And also, like I talked about, you just recently been elected. You were sworn in January. So I want to say congratulations to that. How does it feel to be, a newly elected councilwoman here in the city of Philadelphia? How that's a privilege. How does that feel?
An absolute privilege, an absolute dream. It's been a goal of mine for at least the past 10 years. I'm a city planner by trade.
Awesome.
I spent much of my career supporting the development of affordable housing and helping residents to get engaged in really shaping their neighborhoods. And so for me, being a council person was a great way, an even more impactful way to accomplish that, to empower people to shape their communities.
No doubt. And for me, I understand what it means, but not a lot of people know the role of what a council person, actually does. So can you explain to us what that role actually means and what that represents?
Sure. So city council people carry out many different responsibilities. One is legislation. So we are the legislative body of local government, and we make laws that govern a variety of areas of everyday life. So as an example, I just joined in with two council members, Brooks and Gim, to put forward legislation that would help to keep people in their homes during this time, and that would help to protect against evictions. Beyond legislation, most district council people in particular handle a variety of constituent services. So on a day-to-day basis, my staff is fielding calls all day long about issues that people may have, whether it be their housing or getting access to food, and we're just helping people to negotiate that. Council people, one of our most important jobs is also approving the city's budget. So the mayor just proposed the budget. That budget will not be able to move forward without the approval of council. So it's our job to really dig into it, to look at what's being proposed, and to make sure that we think that that's the best thing for communities. So those are three of the roles we play. And also district council members in particular also have a lot of power over land use and land disposition within their geographies.
Yes. And speaking of district, yours is 3. You are the 3rd district, correct? Awesome. And that 3rd district covers Southwest and the majority of West Philly, or does it cover all of West Philly?
The majority, yes.
So, and you grew up in Southwest?
Yeah.
So how does it
I'm from Kentucky.
Yeah, so how does it feel? Like, do you get that, that feeling when you walk back in your neighborhood and now you know that, you're actually going to do something that you said you were going to do maybe 10 to 20 years ago?
It feels amazing. I'm from King Sessing, and really being born there and my early life there really shaped my worldview and shaped this desire that I have to help the city and to help my community. And so it feels absolutely amazing to be in like an honor and a privilege to be in
Yes.
this role in the place where I was born.
Definitely. And I wanted to ask you too, because normally as a newly elected official, you have like a 90-day rollout plan, you have a 120-day rollout plan. And within this pandemic, you know, it happened within your first 90 to 120 days, and you did not expect that. So did this throw you off, or would you say that you were able to get your gears rolling, you know, throughout this pandemic time? Because I know this was a situation that no one expected to happen, but this is not something that you also had planned either.
I more so shifted my agenda,
Okay.
And tailored it to the epidemic. So my agenda broadly is all about equity, and it's all about making sure that every resident in the 3rd District can connect to the opportunity and the benefits that exist here. And
Yes.
that plays out in a number of ways, from housing to education to jobs to small business growth.
Yes.
And those are still the things that I'm focused on, but I've just shifted it to the time and to what people need in this moment. And so I care a lot about affordable housing, and I care. I think that no matter how much income someone makes, they should be able to find safe, affordable housing in the 3rd District, right? And so the package of bills that I'm working on with my fellow council members is all about making sure that people can stay in their housing during this time, because if you lose your housing, you will have a hard time rebuilding, you know, your life. Economically and from a health perspective, now that everybody needs a place to quarantine.
Yes.
So that's just been a shift, but it's a topic that I've always cared about.
I agree with you on that, because the crazy part is you were talking about this in January and February of this. So when it happened in March, I was like, yo, this is so ironic. But at the same time, I just personally want to say, I feel as though you're handling the pressure amazingly. You know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of people are watching you, but I feel like you're doing an amazing job, honestly, truly. But I want to talk about this Emergency Housing Protection Act package that actually you just posted about today, but this is something that everyone's been waiting to hear more about. So talk to me a little bit more about this.
Sure. So the idea behind this is that in this public health crisis, people need a safe place to be. They need a safe place to live. And that's, in fact, crucial to your ability to stay alive now. Mm-hmm. Additionally, so many people have lost their jobs as a result of this crisis. So we have to, have public policy that realizes that and that doesn't allow for people to just get evicted once we come out of this shutdown order. And so I worked with council members Gim and Brooks to put together a package of 6 bills that we think can accomplish that. So the bills cover the following areas. So 1, we want to extend the eviction moratorium throughout the length of the shutdown, and we also, and for 2 months after as well, to allow people to get on their feet.
Okay. Can we talk about that? Because I just want to break them down, because I know there's going to be a lot to unpack.
Okay.
So I got you going. I want to make sure we unpack them evenly. So when it comes down to the eviction, so right now it was in place up until April 30th. And so you're saying that has extended thus far?
Well, 2 things. So we created a bill saying that should be extended through the length of the shutdown order and also for 2 months following the order to allow people some time to breathe and get on their feet. Okay. Luckily, the governor yesterday extended the eviction moratorium and the foreclosure moratorium through early July, I believe, which we're very grateful for.
Because I was actually watching something that you said previously, and you were saying in 2009 we had people filed about 19,000 eviction cases. So to hear that in 2019 and then to have this pandemic early 2020 is definitely frightening.
Yeah. So on a good day, when we're not having a health crisis, thousands of people are facing eviction, right? About half of Philadelphians rent at this moment, and about half of those renters are what's known as cost burden, meaning that they spend sometimes much more than 30% of their income on their rent. That's on a good day. So imagine in this time when so many people have lost their employment, what those, what the courts are going to look like if we just allow evictions to happen without some type of intervention that really helps to stabilize people.
That's real. Okay, so that's the first thing was eviction. Then the second one?
The second one is allowing people who whose income has been impacted because of the COVID-19 crisis to get into a 12-month payment plan with their landlord. And so if you've lost income, or if your family member has lost income in a way that threatens your housing, you would be able to get into a payment program for 12 months where you can have the ability to pay off that back rent over a 12-month period. And we see this as a way of, one, really forcing landlords and tenants to negotiate, while also giving people enough time to get on their feet and to be able to pay back rent that may have occurred because they lost their job.
So would this be different from the already agreed contract that they have as far as the what is that? The lease. As far as the lease? So this would be something separate from that.
Yes, this would be a payment plan.
And this is something
in
that is,
addition to the lease.
so is this something that is agreed from tenant to landlord, or do we have to go to the court to actually fill out this application, or how does this work?
This legislation would allow for these payment programs, these payment plans to be created for any tenant that has experienced a financial difficulty during this crisis. And in fact, before a landlord would not be able to evict without letting the tenant know that they have the right to create this payment plan.
Awesome. So does that roll out with what you posted today as far as the registration from May 12th to 16th, or is that something different?
We're hoping that all of these bills go together because they all work in concert.
Okay. All right. So number 3, what was number 3? I love that one though. That gives a lot of people, a big leeway.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some space where we don't have to panic as much.
Exactly. I mean, we're hearing from people on a daily basis who are afraid to let their landlord know what's going on with them, or who are being threatened by their landlord. And in the middle of a public health crisis, no one needs to be going through that type of stress around losing their housing. I just think that's unconscionable. Yeah. The next one is rent stabilization. So, with so many people experiencing financial hardship, we don't believe that people's rent should be raised, certainly through the shutdown, but also for a year after. What's that?
That's a thing? Landlords are raising?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. I didn't even know that was a thing.
And it doesn't make a lot of sense. So many people are struggling right now. It doesn't make sense to raise their housing costs.
Agreed. Definitely. I didn't even know that was a thing. And for the fact,
it is a thing.
And that shows that it's about money too in a lot of different ways. But what was number 4?
Yeah. Additionally, we want to waive late fees. We don't think that people who are struggling to pay struggling to have to pay late fees. We want to allow tenants to sue for illegal lockout. So if your landlord does try an illegal lockout during this time, you would be able to sue for damages. And then last, we want there to be a diversion program for renters. So during the last financial crisis, the city was the first in the nation to set up a very successful mortgage diversion program that called, homeowners to the table with their lenders and called for them to negotiate, right? We think the same thing should exist for renters. So before an eviction would be allowed to go through, a tenant has to sit down, a landlord has to sit down with their tenant and come to some type of agreement as a last measure. And so those are the bills. They all kind of reinforce one another and work together, and they're all designed to keep people in their homes. That is the best thing that we can do right now, to both keep people safe and to prevent a burden on our courts and our homeless system.
Yes. And I do have a question. This may be far-fetched, but is there any way that maybe we can get just seized on payments until people get back onto their feet? Because it's like, even creating a payment plan, that is great because that gives us leeway to not panic. But at the same time, if I don't even have the money to create a payment plan, it's going to be really hard for me to hold that obligation. And now there's two obligations I have to you, which is the first contract, and now it's the payment plan. So,
you're completely right. We created what we thought was the strongest legislation that we could, given the powers that we have in council. We do not have the authority in council to say that rents are not going to be charged at all. Mm-hmm. That would constitute what's called a taking, and we just legally don't have the authority to do so. Unfortunately. So we put together the strongest bills that we could, given that situation.
And I appreciate you guys for stepping up.
Yeah, thank you. And we're also really excited that the city today rolled out an emergency rental assistance fund. Mm-hmm. It's a $10 million fund, and it will allow renters who have lost income during this time to apply to get up to 3 months of rent, to get cash assistance for up to 3 months of rent. And that payment will go directly to their landlord.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and if people want to learn more about that, they can learn more at phlrentassist.org. And we think that's fantastic, but we know that even this fund at $10 million is not enough to help all of the renters that are struggling. Yes. So we also want to pair that with public policy.
Definitely. And to speak about that $10 million, earlier you talked about a majority of the city paying about 30% of their income just in general to housing and to, actually living in rent. When it comes down to other major cities, how does Philadelphia compare to that? Or are we booming right now when it comes to rent?
There are certainly many cities where it's much more expensive to rent than Philadelphia, but in Philadelphia, we also are struggling with the fact that about a quarter of the people, even before this crisis, who live here live in poverty, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know what that's going to look like as we come out of this, yes. Right? And so it's not just the fact that rents are rising, it's the fact that a lot of people here live in poverty, and we haven't fully figured out how to solve that yet, mm-hmm. and how to help people get to a better standard of living.
Why do you think there was a switch? Because at one point in the city of Philadelphia, there were more homeowners than renters. And then now in 2020, or just within the past couple of years, there have been more renters than homeowners.
I think my sense is that I don't have, the specific answer to this, but my sense is that it's the shifts in the economy. Mm-hmm. The fact that lots of folks are making wages haven't been raised. People struggle more to afford things with every year that goes by, and all of that is happening at the same time that rents are rising and housing prices are rising, and so I think it makes it harder for people to both have the the finances that they need, as well as just the general economic security that they need to get into a home ownership situation. That's my sense.
I appreciate you giving us your opinion, definitely for answering that question for me. And I also want to ask this question when it comes down to low income, residents here in the city of Philadelphia. I know we tapped in a little bit about, maybe middle class folks who had a job and no longer have a job, but there were tons of folks in the city of Philadelphia that were just unemployed, right? And they were living on Section 8. So what role does, Philadelphia Housing Authority play in this whole, Protection Act, Housing Protection Act? Are those people in Section 8, are they safe, or should they shaking in their boots as well?
Well, the federal government came out and said that federally backed multifamily properties are not able to evict people at this time.
Okay.
The federal government also said that
that's across the United States, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So thankfully, we have that protection in place for people that are in the PHA properties. I do think, though, that in this overall discussion of housing affordability, that public housing becomes very important. Because publicly owned housing, that's one of the last sort of tools that we have against a lot of the gentrification and displacement that's happening.
Yes.
And so I think it's actually really important to have Section 8, really important to have public housing, so that as housing prices continue to rise, people still have places where they can go and where they can access housing and hopefully quality housing.
Yes, and I hope it's okay for me to ask this question, but in City Hall last month, you were talking about West Park Apartments on 46th
Yes.
and Market, and you were talking about the situation with them selling to the highest bidder and different things like that. Can you please just inform us a little bit more about what's going on with West Park Apartments? A lot of people really want to know.
Yes, so you're referencing the plan that PHA has
To sell the apartment, yeah.
two of the three towers connected to the West Park Apartments. And I think the rationale that...
And I'm glad that you cleared that up. I'm sorry to cut you off because the conversation I was having is they were talking about selling all three. So they're only talking about selling two.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think their rationale is that they need the sort of revenue from selling these properties to reinvest in the quality of the property, because it's in poor condition right now. Mm-hmm. And so they want to sell it and bring in some revenue and kind of fix it up and put and replace the housing. My sort of caution to PHA was, I think it's great that we improve the quality of the housing and that we improve the site. The families there deserve that. But in addition to us aiming to replace all of those housing units and make sure that they're high quality, it matters who buys those other two properties.
Well,
we're in a gentrifying area. So West Park is at 46th and Market. It's prime real estate. It's probably 11 minutes on the L to downtown. It's in an opportunity zone, which is a federal designation that allows investment to come in from wherever to support the development of real estate, among other activities. There are already a number of projects slated for the area, including the redevelopment of 4601, which eventually will have a housing element. And I just think to the extent that the public owns land in a gentrifying area, that's our opportunity to make sure that we can manage that gentrification. We should not just be selling it off and giving away our ability to make sure that equitable development happens, because the market is going to be the market. It's our job to make sure that what happens works for people.
And if I can say confidently, that attitude right there is the reason why you won. If I can just say confidently. And I want to just talk a little bit more about that, because you also were talking about Mercy Hospital, the inpatient service center that they were closing as well. So do you think that affected West Philadelphians as far as being, throughout this COVID, the pandemic, not having something as close as Mercy Hospital to us right now? Because I'm actually in West Philly myself.
Well, Mercy is still open.
Well,
Mercy is still open.
okay.
Their plan was never to close before the summer.
Okay.
It was a shock that it came out that they were going to be closing, but the plan was never to close now,
Okay.
right? So they're still open. They're still serving the community. And what I'm hoping for and trying to influence is that another hospital steps in and we're able to retain services there, much needed services there for the community, and that we can get, higher quality services than we've had in the past. So that's what we're trying to work through at this point. But as it relates to the COVID emergency, they're still serving the neighborhood in addition to other institutions.
Awesome. And that's what I wanted to go on to next, as far as testing sites and locations where people can, show up and get tested at.
Yes. So I think to some degree we're fortunate to have access to health institutions in this area, and a number of, and Penn, for instance, has set up 2 testing sites in West Philly that the community can access. One is at 40th and Market Street, and the other is at Sayre Health Center. For both of them, it's recommended that people call the city's COVID hotline to make an appointment. I can give that number if you want.
Please do, yes.
Okay, so that number is 267-785-8585. There's also a testing site for children at CHOPS, at the Carabat Center, which is 48th and Market, I believe. And there's a number for that as well.
Please give it to yes. Provide all the resources. We need these.
All right. That's 800-879-2467. And then additionally, a number of the city's health centers are offering testing right now, including a few in our district. And so there are more and more testing sites being set up every day, which is what we're going to need to come out of this crisis.
Yes.
I can also give a website where folks can just log on and find out more about testing and how they can get access to it.
Please.
And that is phila.gov /COVID, COVID.
Yes. Thank you.
And that website lays out the city's resources and how people can get tested. And it's pretty well designed and gives a lot of information.
Yes. And I want to just talk about West Philly too, as far as, the impact that this COVID-19 has had on just this section of the city, the 3rd district. Would you say that your district, as far as numbers, would you say they have calmed down, or would you say they're still growing?
I mean, the numbers all over the city are still growing, right? I mean, we're not where we need to, we are, sorry, let me rephrase that. The number of cases on a daily basis, as far as I understand, have been decreasing, but there are still thousands of COVID cases in the city. And so we don't this is not a time to let our foot off of the gas. And the pandemic is affecting neighborhoods all over the city. However, at the same time, we are seeing the pandemic place almost like a magnifying glass on some of the disparities that existed, particularly in our Black communities. And so, for instance, a number of people of underlying conditions, diabetes, that can make really, really have as much to healthcare, which is all.
Councilwoman, you're kind of breaking up just a little bit. One second. You're kind of breaking up. We can't really. 1 second. Alright, you're frozen. I'm going to get you back on there. I appreciate everybody's tuning in. We are live right now with the councilwoman. I want to get her back on so she can finish talking about what she was saying. Thank you guys for spreading the word, spreading the message. All right, we're back. I'm sorry we couldn't hear you a little bit. You were breaking up real quick.
I'm back.
Yes. But what were you saying as far as the numbers and different disparities?
I was saying that the disparities that existed before this pandemic started are making this pandemic worse for Black people and other communities of color. So the fact that many people in our Black communities have underlying health conditions like diabetes, the fact that so many of us don't have access to insurance, the fact that so many of us work in these essential hourly jobs that is forcing us to have to go to work because we need, to make an income right now. So we're in places where we're coming into contact with lots of people. We have to get on public transportation to get to our jobs. All of those things are making the COVID-19 pandemic worse for Black people and other communities of color. And, it makes me just hope that when we come out of this, we understand why we need to take care of people in good times, right? Why it's important for everybody to have health insurance, why it's important for everybody to have safe housing and shelter, why it's important that we give people a living wage. All of that is playing out right now. Why things like internet access matter. Right.
And I agree with you, and that's why as a millennial I was kind of hurt when Bernie Sanders dropped out, because it just seemed like everything that he was saying, throughout his campaign is actually what we need at this time, and then for him to just float out of nowhere. But yeah, I just think that was definitely I definitely agree with what you're talking about on a lot of different points. And as far as just us reopening the state of Pennsylvania and also the city of Philadelphia, are you in favor of that, or do you think we need a little bit more time?
I can't see where that is a good idea for people's health. I know folks are ready to get out of the house. I know folks are ready to get back to work. But, in my mind, I think about where things were on March 13th. So the last day I was physically in City Hall before the shutdown was March 13th. I think there were 4 cases, right? It is 2 months later, and we've crossed, we at least have 18,000 cases in the city of Philadelphia at this point, and several hundred deaths, over 800 deaths. I can't see how opening up and now gets us to a better place when we've seen such exponential growth starting off with a much smaller amount of cases. And so the decision to open up has to be based on a dramatic reduction in the number of new cases, a dramatic reduction in the number of people dying every day, and a dramatic increase in our ability to test and to treat this virus.
That's right.
And we've not reached those indicators yet.
That's real. And I appreciate you for answering that question for me as well. But before I let you go, were there any opportunities or resources that we did not discuss that you still have for us today?
Let me see. I just wanted to again remind people about the Philly's COVID site. Hold on, sorry, I'm trying to find that for y'all. phila.gov/COVID, because it lays out so much great information about testing resources, about food sites. There are dozens of food sites all over the city that will give access to fresh, free food right now. And there's also a lot of information about like how to get internet access and just how to get what you need. I also want to remind people to follow me. I'm at Councilmember JG on multiple platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we also share a lot of information about resources.
Yes. And before I let you go, because you are a newly elected councilwoman here in the city of Philadelphia, we want to get to know you just a little bit more. So I have 4 questions that's going to help us get to know just your personality as a person. You ready?
Okay.
All right. The first one is, who is your hero?
Who is my hero? I would say my dad.
Awesome.
My dad is the reason I think I got into doing community work. The reason I got into politics. Um, he's a lawyer, but he's also a community advocate. And from the time I was a little girl, I saw him advocating for Black people in our city on a variety of issues, from criminal justice to, the right for Black people to have access to high quality education. And that always stuck with me as just a
Awesome.
thing we could do, right?
Awesome. Was he a politician himself?
He ran for district attorney twice, and
Awesome.
he did very well. He ran as an independent candidate twice, but I would say he was a version of Larry Krasner about 20 years before people were
Dope.
ready for Larry Krasner.
Dope. And I love Larry Krasner. All right, the next one is, what song would you sing at karaoke night?
This is not hard for me. I love karaoke. All right. So one of my favorite artists is Tracy Chapman.
Okay.
So I love Give Me One Reason. That's one of my favorite karaoke songs.
Awesome.
And this is not just a hypothetical. You might catch me, singing this song at
We
karaoke.
I'm about to say now that we know that you love karaoke, we might gotta do a virtual karaoke night with the councilwoman. That would be popping. That would be popping.
We'll see if my staff lets me do that.
I'm about to say, I definitely join in on that one. All right, the next one is, what is your favorite game or sport that you like to play?
Oh, I am very clumsy. I don't play a lot of sports. I do like to run.
Okay.
I like to run for exercise, and it also clears my mind. But in terms of games, I like more like mind-driven games.
So what's that one game on your phone? What's that one game on your phone?
Words with Friends.
Words with Friends. All right, I'll take that one. All right, and the last one is, what is your biggest pet peeve?
My biggest pet peeve is when people are not clear or honest. I kind of feel like I'm the kind of person, I can work with anybody. I can receive anything, but I have to know that people are coming from a place of honesty, and I have to be clear about what the terms of engagement are.
Yes. I appreciate you once again for coming through and supporting us here at Revive Radio 98.5. And I got to ask you this last personal question, and this one was for me. How many times do you actually have to correct someone when it comes to pronouncing your last name? Because I was making sure I did not mess that up. How many times?
At least 10 times a day.
Does that irritate you? And the crazy part is, I thought that was going to be your biggest pet peeve, though. I honestly thought it was.
If you get within the realm, I'm good.
Okay. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, I appreciate you once again. Go ahead and shout yourself out, how they can find you, your website, if you want to share your email, things like that. Once again.
Sure. Councilmember Jamie Gauthier. I represent the 3rd District, West and Southwest Philly. You can reach me at 215-686-0459. That's our office number. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You can email me anytime at jamie.gauthier@phila.gov. And I'm Councilmember JG on every social media platform.
Awesome. And when it comes down to the resources, as far as what you named, we can find that on your social media, or we can find on the website. How will we find more information about the resources that you named personally about the emergency package?
Oh, the emergency package. You can go on my social media.
Okay. Yeah. Find more information there. All right. Perfect. I appreciate you. I hope you have a great weekend, and happy Mother's Day once again.
Thank you so much.
No doubt. Have a good one.
Bye.
That wraps up another amazing interview with City Councilwoman Jamie Gauthier. Man, make sure you guys turn your radios up. 98.5. I'm reviving your airways all the way up into 6 p.m., man. Let's go. It's your girl, P.O.C. I'll be back on Instagram Live around 4:15 with the Revive quality. Make sure you do not want to miss this one. It's your girl, P.O.C. Let's get it.
Tonia. I'm a podcast host of Mommy Matters The Wind Down and mobile app creator, and I need you to tune in to Revive Radio.
Streaming now on ReviveIsAlive.com is Revive Radio. You can catch some amazing playbacks, exclusive interviews, and so much more. We're streaming live 365, 24/7, a.m. to the p.m. Once again, that's ReviveIsAlive.com.
Looking to enhance your brand awareness? Well, guess what? Revive Radio has created a platform for you, yes you, to spread your brand and your brand's message. Revive Radio offers affordable advertising packages to artists, entrepreneurs, and small businesses. You can find more information about that at reviveisalive.com. And guess what? You can also book P.O.C. as your next brand ambassador. Hit us up right now at revive.poc@gmail.com.
Tuning out to Revive Radio. Tuning out to Revive Radio.
Looking to enhance your brand awareness? Well, guess what? Revive Radio has created a platform for you, yes you, to spread your brand and your brand's message. Revive Radio offers affordable advertising packages to artists, entrepreneurs, and small businesses. You can find more information about that at reviveisalive.com. And guess what? You can also book P.O.C. as your next brand ambassador. Hit us up right now at revive.poc@gmail.com.